This is an absolutely tragic case, and my sympathies are absolutely with Henry's family, his friends and his loved ones. I want to apologise. I want to say that I am sorry that Henry couldn't be saved that night. I'm sorry that he was handcuffed and arrested in the moments before he lost consciousness. It's quite clear that officers didn't understand what had happened immediately. And that is some of the context I would ask people to understand. There had been a delay from those who chose eventually to call them. There were lies from Henry's killer in that 999 phone call, further lies from his killer as officers arrived on scene. And despite Henry telling officers he'd been stabbed, it took them some minutes to realise what had really happened. But within 3 minutes of that engagement with Henry, they were giving him first aid. They'd taken the handcuffs off and they were giving him first aid.
What action is being taken in relation to the officers who handcuffed him?
We referred ourselves immediately to the Independent Office of Police Conduct the following day, and they've been independently investigating ever since. We are absolutely committed to acting on their findings. The officers are witnesses in that case. As I say, it's clear to me the circumstances were complex. For example, Henry's significant wound, the wound that was fatal, was deep and internal. The pathologist was clear in court that it would have been hard to find. The bleeding was inside Henry's body, and sadly there was nothing officers could have done that night to save him.
But that was despite Henry saying that he had been stabbed.
So Henry clearly says he's been stabbed, and it's quite clear that officers don't immediately understand that that's what's happened. Whilst he did have some injuries, that significant bleeding was internal. There was not a significant out of blood where Henry was. The pathologist is clear that that fatal wound was deep and internal, the bleeding was internal, and yes, despite that, there was nothing that officers could have done to save Henry's life.
Does this case show evidence that officers can perhaps be biased when the race card is played?
So this case is about officers who have limited information, far less information than we have now, who were lied to by Henry's killer on that call. Only one person is responsible for killing Henry, and that's the man who stabbed him that night. That man lied to officers on the scene, and I have no doubt that that contributed to their not immediately understanding what had taken place. And as I say, nevertheless, within 3 minutes of being with Henry, they had realised and they were starting to give him first aid.
Elon Musk has offered to fund a private prosecution against the police. Have you received any notice of litigation?
So these are private matters for the family and for others. What I'd say, we were absolutely open to any challenge or scrutiny that must come. Policing must be transparent, policing must be open. All I ask is that people can consider all of the facts in the case.
Now on the blade itself, is it appropriate or legal for a 21 centimetre bladed kirpan knife to be carried in public?
So I think we should be clear that Henry's killer is charged with possession of an offensive weapon in relation to this case. The law in general on the carrying of kirpans is clear, and the law in general in terms of offensive weapons has been strengthened very recently. So I think that is the important position. You know, there is a charge for Henry's killer in relation to possession of an offensive weapon.
And is your police force going to engage with the Sikh community to raise awareness of all of this as well and provide guidance on all of this?
So we pride ourselves in the way we engage with all communities, and we have been engaged with this community since this happened, as we have with the university community where Henry came from and the wider community of Southampton. And in that engagement, of course, we cover all issues that might be relevant, including the law.
Okay.
I really want to be clear how sorry I am that Henry couldn't be saved that night, that he was arrested and handcuffed before he lost consciousness. Henry was the victim of this crime, and the fact that officers took several minutes to realise what had happened and to start to give Henry a first aid is something that I deeply regret. But they were operating with far less information than we have now, on the basis of lies, with a wound that was deep and internal, and where the bleeding, that significant bleeding, was not and could not have been immediately obvious to them, and where the pathologist has been clear that there's nothing they could have done that night that would have saved Henry's life.